In our last episode, English merchants looked east, founding the East India Company, striking deals, and laying the foundations of a global trading empire. But while ships chased spices across oceans, trouble was brewing much closer to home. Across the Irish Sea, England was experimenting with empire, not through trade, but through land, law, and sometimes sheer brutality. Ireland became a testing ground, a laboratory for plantation policies that would shape centuries of conflict. And if you thought company politics were ruthless, wait until you meet the Tudors and Stuarts in Ireland. By the late 16th century, England had a problem. Ireland, just a stone's throw away, refused to behave. Gaelic lords, Catholic faith, and deep-rooted traditions resisted Tudor control. So what was England's solution? If you can't tame them, replace them. Confiscate lands from rebellious chiefs and plant loyal English and Scottish settlers in their place. This was colonization, Tudor style, less about spices, more about sheep. Less curry, more potatoes. And as we'll see, the plantations would ignite centuries of bloodshed. Elizabeth I wasn't just the virgin queen of Shakespeare and sea dogs. She was also the monarch who tried to tighten England's grip on Ireland. In the 1560s, plantation schemes were attempted in Laois and Offaly in central Ireland. The lands were confiscated, renamed Queen's County and King's County, and settlers were encouraged to move in. It sounded simple on parchment, but on the ground, a nightmare. Locals resisted, burned farms, and attacked newcomers. One frustrated English settler wrote, "The Irish are obstinate and will neither plough nor plant in the English manner." Translation: the plan was failing miserably. But Elizabeth was determined. Her armies, led by hard men like the Earl of Essex, crushed rebellions with ruthless efficiency. Entire villages were destroyed. Starvation was used as a weapon. Ireland was becoming less a neighbor and more a colony under siege. If plantations planted the seeds of resentment, the 9 Years' War was the harvest. Led by Hugh O'Neill, Earl of Tyrone, Gaelic Ireland united in revolt. Backed by Spanish allies, Irish forces actually managed to defeat English armies in several battles. At the Battle of the Yellow Ford in 1598, O'Neill's men inflicted one of England's worst defeats on Irish soil. For a moment, it looked as if the English might lose Ireland altogether. But Elizabeth threw everything she had into the war. By 1603, after years of scorched earth campaigns, famine, and destruction, the Irish resistance was broken. O'Neill submitted just as Elizabeth herself lay dying. England had won, but at the cost of devastation across Ireland. And this victory set the stage for an even more ambitious plantation scheme. When James VI of Scotland became James I of England in 1603, he brought a new vision: unite his crowns, secure his rule, and make Ireland loyal. How? By taking the most rebellious province, Ulster, and flooding it with Protestant settlers. After the flight of the Earls, in 1607, when Gaelic lords like Hugh O'Neill fled into European exile, their lands were declared forfeit. Perfect timing for James. The UlsterPlantation was the largest colonization project yet. Tens of thousands of Scottish Presbyterians and English Protestants were granted land. Towns like Londonderry, yes, the name says it all, were built with fortified walls. For the settlers, opportunity. For the Irish, dispossession. Generations of farmers were driven from ancestral lands. Catholic tenants became second-class citizens. It was empire in microcosm, profit for some, misery for many. What was plantation life like? For settlers, harsh but promising. Imagine arriving in a strange land, given a plot of confiscated land, and told to farm it under constant threat of rebellion. For the Irish left behind, life was harsher. Many became laborers on what had once been their own fields. Laws discriminated against Catholics in property, politics, and even worship. This wasn't just colonization, it was social engineering. Change the population, change the religion, change the culture, a kind of imperial reboot. But like all forced reboots, Bugs remained in the system, bugs that would crash the whole program again and again. In 1641, rebellion exploded. Native Irish, furious at decades of dispossession, rose up across Ulster. Thousands of settlers were killed in violent reprisals. English propaganda exaggerated the atrocities, fueling calls for revenge. The result? The brutal wars of the mid-17th century, culminating in Oliver Cromwell's infamous campaign in Ireland, massacres at Drogheda and Wexford that scarred memory for centuries. The plantations had not pacified Ireland, they had made it a powder keg. The plantation policies of the Tudors and Stuarts reshaped Ireland, demographically, politically, and culturally. They also gave England a model: seize land, import settlers, enforce rule. The same formula would be exported across the Atlantic and beyond. But Ireland's wounds would never truly heal. Centuries of conflict, rebellion, and partition trace their roots back to these plantations. And while Ireland smoldered, England looked outward again. The 17th century was bringing new challenges: trade wars, rival navies, and laws that would reshape the seas. If you're enjoying this saga of Empire's rise, subscribe and join us for episode 7, where the struggle for trade supremacy will explode into naval battles between England and the Dutch.